Just like you said, you said pictures, but I went back and looked at the picture, I put on Facebook, and Facebook, and somebody had made some comments, and I never read it, and they're saying.
Well, I checked her vehicle.
Because these businesses was never marked Daniels, but.
Yeah.
So it's a picture, his name's on the window, he was. Unless it's another, there used to be another stuff that looked like her building, you know, hers has no parts still in it.
Quite sure this isn't gonna do this, so.
And I'm sure.
Hey, Miss Davis.
Hey, Dale, how are you?
I'm fine, girl. Give me a
So
hug.
sorry about my shirt.
I know, you know, suffering no more, and I heard he had a rough time, you know, so.
Yeah, he said I had a couple of days.
I know.
It's hard, so.
I know, thank you. Hey, I thought, John, he good, he said, Bill, he did say, his daddy was in the building, but he said, it was before his time.
Bunch of them downtown.
You can't find it now?
Well, I saw it.
Oh, no, it was too short, but they were higher, but they took them down lower.
I bet that was a false one.
Which one are you talking about?
Showed a bunch of them downtown.
Okay, it's a couple minutes after 6, so we'll call the meeting to order. I'm Bud Smith, I'm chairman of the Ethics Committee. I will be serving as the young administrator for this public hearing on ethics complaints on today's agenda.
Before you begin, Mr. Smith, I'd like to make a suggestion that we can add to the agenda, some old business that we need to, take care of. It was brought to my attention today that somebody, contacted the city manager with concerns as to our past adding to the, like approving the previous minutes from the previous meeting. So I'd like to take the opportunity and do February 6th, February 12th, and February 26th, which are the 3 meetings that I've been a part of, today on the record. I don't know if you guys wanna have discussion on that, or do you want me to go ahead and put the, meetings up so that you guys can vote on approving them into the record?
Does anybody have any discussion on those 3 meetings that we need to approve the minutes for?
Have we seen those minutes?
You should have. Would you like to see them first? February 26th was the most recent one, but we also put the vote, on the record as well.
I may save us some time here. I just wanna know if these minutes are the generalities of what went on, or are they a transcript of executive session?
Okay, the minutes that I'm, trying to get in on the record are February fifth, which I took down the minutes and presented them to the city on your behalf. The same for February 12th. And the only thing I'm putting on the record for February 26th is that there was that hearing, with Ms. Bodie and Mr. Brown, I believe, was a part of that as well. And what your, decision was, and then you guys would probably call for a vote. I would suggest that you would vote on that on the record.
There is no transcript of executive session.
I will not, there would not be anything provided.
I don't think so.
Any other? Everyone that wishes to approve the minutes of those three meetings, please vote by raising your right hand.
So that was five? Okay. And I just briefly wanted to put on the record February fifth. Members that were present were Keith, Myron, and Alfred. And co-chair Alfred Williams is the one that called the meeting to order. That began at 16:24. And we discussed that there would be no meeting on February 19th, nor on March 5th. There was a motion to change meeting time from Tuesday to 6 p.m. in the conference room to vote on the procedures to put in place as for these hearings that we're going to be conducting today. The next hearing date was scheduled for February 26th at 4 p.m. And we discussed how there was no system in place at that time, and that we were looking for suggestions as to what the procedures would be for these hearings that we're putting together. There was general discussion about that, that's all included in the minutes, and the meeting was adjourned at 17:38. That was on February 5th. On February 12th, there was another meeting. Attending was Myron, Desmond, Bud Smith, the chair, which brought the meeting to order, and Alfred Williams, and Keith was also there. I was present as well. Mr. Smith called the meeting to order. We discussed February 19th not having a meeting. And again, March 5th, Self was not available and not having a meeting. We went over the proposed rules of the hearing procedure, which at that same meeting, you voted, it was a unanimous vote that these procedures be presented to this, Ms. Melissa Brooks as what our procedure was gonna be. And you made some revisions, that there were some revisions made that you requested the revisions would be made. And then we discussed case, number 3 to determine, whether or not it warranted the hearings that we're on today. Okay, and that was a public meeting. I think there was one person present in the conference room that day that listened in from the city, from the community. I don't know if you guys recall that. And the meeting adjourned at 8:10 p.m. And on February 26th, we met again, and there was the hearing. The complainant was Elton Brown, and Stephanie Bodie was the respondent. There were members of the community present in the audience, and I believe the whole panel was present that day. Mr. Smith, Mr. Strickland, Alfred Williams, Desmond, and did I miss somebody? And Mr.
Myron.
McIntyre? Myron? I'm sorry, Mr. Myron, I apologize. I thought I said you first. And we had the hearing that day, and you met an executive session to discuss whether or not you believe Ms. Bodie was in violation of the alleged complaint. And at this time, I'd like for you guys to vote, publicly as to what your results were. And I do want to note that last Tuesday, there was a council meeting, and I was called up to discuss our decision, and they, again, approved our decision and did not issue any violations or reprimand.
if we need to, on whether or not Ms. Bowden, Council Lady Bowden, was in violation of the, complaint that was against her. All who think that she was not in violation, please raise your right hand.
And then we'll note for the record that it was unanimous.
Unanimous.
And then I had one, under new business, I wanted to add a C. We have that new complaint form that I had submitted for your review and suggestions that we need to discuss. It hasn't been voted on. And I also wanted to add, I did receive correspondence, from next week's agenda. We were to hear a complaint, and I believe Mr. Brown, did you send me an email? Mr. Brown submitted an email asking for more time. I do not want to share the personal reasons why that he's here. He can respond to that as well, but he wanted to see if we can reschedule or postpone next week's hearing. He requested it be he said April 3rd, I'm assuming he meant April 2nd. I'm on leave that week, so if we are gonna postpone it and move it forward, I would suggest the following week, which is the 14th. I'm sorry, the 9th of April.
That'll be a city council meeting,
So the April 9th is a city council meeting.
Well, and for the record, this, next week would be the last week that this committee would,
Be able to hear that.
be able to hear this current constituted. Because, I know I, for one, I think there's some others whose terms ends the end of March. I certainly don't want to postpone it, but I just for full disclosure.
Microphone. You guys not here?
No.
Your microphone. You're not working? Would you like to address that issue? I don't wanna share your personal business, that's something that you can do, as far as getting it postponed.
Board, the reason I asked that we postpone next week's, hearing is because, one, I'm having to deal with this hearing this week and preparing for this. I also have two funerals, one that we just, got done burying someone today, and I have another one on Thursday, and we have some family issues that we're trying to deal with this weekend, so it's gonna limit me on my time to prepare for next week. That's why I'm asking you that we will, if we could please postpone it. I understand that some of you terms end at the end of the month, but I don't know why that can be reinstated, I guess. As we have a council meeting on the 9th of April.
Are you the complainant in that, or the
I am.
Or do you wanna discuss that? I suggest.
Certainly seems legit that we would, if it was known. And let the new board decide, I guess, next week.
Which Tuesday did you say you were not available?
It would be the following Tuesday, April the 2nd, that's
Second.
spring break in this county. I'm sorry, that, April 2nd?
No.
Oh.
April 9th is.
Well, he was asking what day am I not available? I'm not available April 2nd, it's spring break in this county, and I'll be with my children.
So really, my only choice we have is go on to the 9th.
That's the city council meeting, right?
Well, that's the city council
Yes.
meeting.
He did say. So it would be the 16th?
Put it to 16th.
And when was this complaint filed? Do you know when it was filed?
I don't know.
Stamped on the front is December the 10th.
Well, it's not filed, is it? Going back
This,
to-
this only date I see is December 10.
Okay, well, it's not our delay, the complainant is asking for more time, so that should be. If you guys wanna vote on changing that hearing, and we can just have a regular meeting on the, 26th. I'm sorry, is our next hearing date? Oh, no, the 26th, March 26th. We can have a regular meeting on the 26th to discuss other business if you'd like.
What would we be meeting about?
I think we have, do we have one more complaint? So we need to look into that. You may wanna talk a little bit louder, cause I don't think that. anybody can hear.
microphones
I'm- I'm trying to be really loud.
Where's the microphone?
Before we do any case, we always have a discussion prior to the case, is this case warranted? Is the code as a nation, matches what the issue is? Once we go through that portion of it, then we go ahead and move forward. And if anything that any new evidence that the city needs to provide for it, we'll review that. Then we'll go ahead, once we have that meeting, the person, whoever it is gonna be identified, will be notified that the meeting coming up is in reference to their case.
So we can have that meeting on March 26th for the following case. Would you guys like to vote on that, on postponing?
Everybody agreeable to that?
5 p.m.?
Yes, I see.
Everybody agreeable.
Unanimous. And all I have next is the complaint form. You may wanna discuss a bit about what the complaint form is that we're talking about. Anybody?
This is the ethics complaint form that has been rewritten. I've gone over it several times, it looks good to me. Does anybody see anything that needs to be added or taken away?
I don't think so. Just get it.
That was fine.
Would you,
No, it's fine.
you wanna
Thank
move,
everybody.
do you guys wanna move to vote on it?
Everybody, raise your right hand, what was approve this new form?
It looks like unanimous. So I will forward this to Ms. Brooks to add to the website. And then we can go on to, with the hearings for today.
Here we have 3 ethics complaints today. We have one filed by Mr. Arlie Lowe against Count Dalton Brown. In violation of Article 7, Code of Ethics of the Ordinance City of Hampton. Also, Section 2-46, Tutorial of the Ordinance of the City of Hampton, section of Robert's Rules of Order. This occurred on October 9, 2018, at the City Council meeting. And it says Mr. Brown broke the decorum when he directly addressed the citizens in attendance at the meeting. Also had a previously written document that was delivered to the city clerk to be inserted in the official record of the meeting. A copy was made available to report in attendance. Specific of Mr. Brown violated Section 291 principal policies, 2 and 5, Section 2-92, Section 3. Due to me, Mr. Brown openly questioned the racism of citizens and the patriotism of the entire city. Engaged in dialogue with a citizen that was abusive, was very condescending toward the citizens in attendance. Representative recording of the meeting was 1926-48, that's the time, 7/26/48. We all have racism in us. 7/28/13 of 19/28/13 asserted that previous council had run amok. 1929-43 asserted that they did not appreciate veterans in this city. It is disgusting. It is disgusting. When an audience member shouted, "Yes, we do," Mr. Brown did shout it at the audience member. Stated, "You guys want to get on your little high horses." It's apparent that Mr. Brown has no respect for the citizens of people displayed it. We also have one filed by Ms. Luana Powell. Saying that Mr. Brown's outburst was totally out of order. He would not stop even when asked by the Councilman Bodie and the mayor, and the burst from people in the audience at the council meeting. We also have one filed by Ms. Linda Dodgy on October 9, 2018. She was in attendance at the City of Hampton Council meeting, which she has attended for many years. She witnessed the rant of Councilman Elton Brown to the council, staff, and citizens that were also in attendance that night. So those are basically the 3 complaints.
Can all 3 complaints present?
Yes, ma'am.
I think to make it easier, if everybody will stand up, that the complainants and the respondents, but I can swear you in at the same time, the 3 complainants. Do you guys have witnesses here that are going to testify as well? Okay. You would raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
Which complainant are we starting with? Who are we starting with?
Oh, I think Mr. Farley, though.
Just over 1 second. Before you started, I need you to go into your packet. You can see these 3 documents. These have to be wiped out. that you see.
This one, Mr. Brown handed out just a few minutes ago.
Oh, I didn't get one of those.
You have one on your desk,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and I had intentions of collecting those packets when we're done, that's just for you, for this procedure.
Okay. Okay, I see, okay.
Just in case they take full, something like that.
Who would call it the
That has to be motion. Did you see that? I did. You ready? Mr. Lowe? We have five minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Thank you, Chairman Smith and members of the committee. This is a short statement. I'm not sure what Councilman Brown's motive or purpose was in delivering his lecture to the city's citizens in the council chamber, or insisting that his multiple-page written statement be included in the minutes of the meeting. This performance was totally unlike anything I've ever seen in 16-plus years of attending council meetings in the city of Hampton. We must remember that having his written statement included in the minutes of the meeting has the identical effect of reading it in the meeting. It becomes a permanent part of the history of the Hampton City Council. Mr. Brown insulted the citizens of Hampton by accusing them of being racist and the entire city being non-patriotic. He insulted some of his fellow elected officials. He insulted the employees of the city of Hampton by saying that they were lazy and fat. In multiple places in writing, he accuses the mayor of being incompetent. Mr. Brown accuses the mayor of interfering in administration. I would submit that by Mr. Brown's assessment of the city employees and his criticism, he is negatively affecting morale, and therefore, he is interfering in administration. Specifically, principal policies under section 2-291, during the meeting, Mr. Brown openly questioned the racism of citizens and patriotism. Some of the comments had been made earlier by Chairman Smith. All citizens should be treated with courtesy, impartiality, and equality. That did not happen. There was no courtesy there. Section 2-292 is the intent of this code of ethics that public servants should avoid any action which might result in or create the appearance of the following three: effectively adversing the confidence of the public integrity of those who conduct the affairs and business of the city of Hampton. A few examples. Quote, Steve Hutchison has and will tonight demonstrate his incompetence. Not only is he derelict in his specified duties, he has conducted himself as a spoiled toddler who doesn't get his way, end quote. Quote, further demonstrating his incompetence to lead our city, end quote. Quote, frankly, Mr. Coney inherited a staff of incompetent people who vaguely understood their duties, end quote. Another quote, they are too comfortable lounging around the city hall getting fat while producing no product. Those are the comments he made about the mayor, the city employees, and the staff. Now, how can that instill confidence in the people operating this city and the public when one of the elected officials makes those kinds of comments? Those comments are in the written record of the meeting, in the meeting minutes for that meeting. Mr. Brown's violation of decorum, section 2-46, states all remarks should be addressed to the mayor and not individual council members, staff, or citizen attendants. Mr. Brown clearly violated this section. The mayor has no authority to allow violation of this section. The Robert's Rules of Order states in basic procedures, members address only the chair or address other members through the chair. There is no provision in any of Robert's rules for any member to address the audience. Mr. Brown asked for a point of personal privilege. This is addressed in several areas of Roberts, but nowhere does it allow the use to which Mr. Brown put it. There is nothing that would allow Mr. Brown to act as he did, even if his address to the audience were allowable. They were inappropriate and violated, and here's a typo, it violated section 2-291 and 2-292. I believe in the original complaint it has 2-191. During the heading of debate on the motion, in Roberts it stated, to this end they must never attack or make any allusion to the motives of the members. In the minutes, there's a notation. Councilmember Brown stated that considering recent happenings, approval of the proposed ordinance is not appropriate. He's questioning the motives of the other members of the council in their vote. In summary, not only did Mr. Brown violate the provisions of the ethics ordinance, section 2-291 and 2-292, he also violated the decorum ordinance, section 2-46. Additionally, Mr. Brown violated 3 different provisions of Robert's Rules of Order, which the council did accept and vote on and make it their standing rules of procedure. And there are other instances in the letter, in the written statements, which you all should have a copy of other comments and statements that he made about employees and the staff. Any questions? Thank you.
Councilman Brown, do you want to respond visually or?
Sure, I'd like to hear all of them first and then I'll respond.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. All right. Hunter's here. Everybody else okay? We all good? Understood.
Okay.
I'm done now.
Okay, so whenever you grab your lapel, you're gonna wanna hold down this button right here. Hold it down, and then see the green on the line. That means your lapel mic is on. That means
They can hear you pretty okay, I guess. And in order to, you're gonna wanna mute it whenever you're not talking, or else it's gonna relay and it's gonna echo like that, so that they can't hear you.
all you gotta do in order to mute it is that button right there.
Whenever you speak, just make sure it's green. When you're not speaking, make sure it's red.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, now, we will hear from Ms. Powell.
File. I'm going to basically have the same complaint that Arlie did. I do have a copy of the newspaper article, if you gentlemen are interested in it. That showed up a couple days after that meeting, that pretty well spells out exactly what Mr. Brown said at that meeting, not all of it, but most of it. too bad we had to hit in a this way. You're welcome. Do you gentlemen have a copy of the speech he gave? Are you in possession of that?
Are you referring to the video of the
No,
meeting?
the tape.
We were actually
Elton
able,
Brown's speech during October 9th?
we were actually able to see it on a video that was posted.
Because I have copies of it printed out.
Okay, okay.
Would you like some?
Are you referring to,
The 8-minute speech that he gave that evening.
the thing that he wrote or the stuff surrounding it?
spoke.
I don't have what he spoke. But I would like to see it. The video was a little hard to see.
Yes. And the tape was. I think they were having a little problems with electronics maybe that evening.
Now, who transcribed that?
My daughter did, from the city's tape.
But she transcribed it, she listened to it and transcribed it, that's what that is?
Yes. Is that correct? Yes.
From the city tape or
From the
whatever.
city tape.
Okay. Yes, who's that?
And the newspaper pretty well backs it up.
But has everybody on the board been able to listen to the actual video of that, meeting as well? I just wanted to make sure that that was verified on the
Yeah.
record.
Of course, in my letter, I felt that Mr. Brown was totally out of order and out of place in his outburst. And I feel that a lot of it was because we had guests with us that evening. A senator from, Al Sharpton, for example, was here from the National Civil Rights. I think he was perhaps showing off a little bit. I don't know what his motive was, but he did make the city look really bad. And when he referred to the people in the audience as these people that caused the division in the city. His attack is, of course, Marianne Mitchum rose from her seat, said that he was out of order, that he had the floor. Steve Astor sat down, even at the request of another councilman and the mayor, he ignored them and just kept on going. And like Artie said, he attacked Steve. And the remarks he made about him really got to a lot of people because a large portion of the people that originally started those crosses some time ago were sitting in the room. And what a lot of people don't realize, the city didn't pay for the original crosses. People didn't pay for the original crosses. Some of the people that were sitting in the room forked out as much as $1,400 to start the project and to buy the flag. My daughter and I know because we were among that group. We bought a table saw to cut the wood, and it really was offensive to them to hear that we don't care about our veterans. And me personally, my husband served from 1945 to 1975 active duty, so yeah, that hurt. Ooh, that really hurt when you say you don't care about your veterans. I put a postmark on my complaint about, I think we have an ordinance that the city workers will not be requested to work on private property, which the King House was private property. And it was not the first time that the Kings had been approached for repair on a house. The first time the citizens of Hampton, approached them about helping them with their drafty windows. Mr. King, did not want to. So, any councilman should know that you don't make a request of a city employee because it sets a precedent. Like if something happens to my house, is somebody from the city going to come over and work on my, or something goes wrong over there, is the city responsible for it, and that's why we don't do it. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions from Ms. Powell?
Is it Mrs.
Pyle.
Pyle? Okay. Ms. Pyle, if you could continue talking about what your postscript there, because well, let me sort of go where I want you to address. Because I know nothing about the King situation, I really need to know anything about the King situation, other than, is what you are alleging that Mr. Brown, either ordered, or however you would put it, an employee of the Citizen to work on somebody's private situation that the city was not sponsoring?
No, the city did not, but the King House is an older White House that's,
I don't need to know that, I'm just, but is the allegation
Yes,
that it's
and-
a totally private situation, so an employee on city time is being told, go work on that house?
yes, more or less, and that's when our old city manager was, here also, and he was there that day too. Because I personally spoke with Mr. Brown, if you will recall, we were having a telephone conversation about the lights on the soccer field, and he was there at the home at that time. Because he'd forgotten that he voted for the lights on the field.
Ma'am, the city employees that you're saying that was directed to go work on this house, what are their names?
That, I'd rather not say, because I don't want to get city employees in trouble, and I think it probably was 90% the old city manager.
If you bring it up in here, it needs to be spoken. So what are they?
Well, there was subject, because I don't want them reprimanded, or, it was under the old city manager, Charles Combs. He was there that day too. And I guess you do what your boss says.
We're trying to drop the matter, but when you say it, once you put it out there, it's out there. And now, it makes us want to look and find out who are these employees who basically their rights have been violated. Excuse me, I'm going to this, but we need to see, when you put it out there that way, we need to know who are these city employees, because the ethics is not only for what's going on today, it's for what's going on tomorrow. If a city employee was ordered to go do something, then we have violated his rights, and we need to know who that person is. We can't go off of hearsay or what I think. We need to know who that person is, because if you put it out there, now it becomes the package.
Well, Mr. Brown can probably answer that one better than I can, because he was there that day.
That's not what I'm talking to, I'm talking to
Yeah.
you, because you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah. I don't know their names. I know they're, at West End, but I don't know their names.
Okay.
And like I said, it was under Charles, Combs. So,
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Ms. Thompson?
good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies. Linda Dodgen, and I was also in attendance at the meeting, on October the 9th. Mr. Brown chose to voice his opinion, city and the citizens. I echo said already, so I won't repeat it, but I echo the same thing that the last two complainants have said. You've already got copies of the, section that they were referring to, but I do have something a little different. After the meeting, I sent an email to our mayor and all of the council. And in that email that I wrote, I was asking for an apology from one of our city councilmen. I got copies of that for everyone.
Is this the copy right here? Yeah.
It is.
Okay, all right.
You got full, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody got copies? In that email, Mr. Hutchinson came back with a short reply, Ms. Bodie came back with a very nice short reply. But Mr. Brown decided to engage me in an email war, it seemed like. He went on stating that he would not apologize, would never apologize, he stood by his word, and he was going to stand by his word. He goes on, not only after that, to discuss our city, or the lack of our knowledgeable staff, but in one paragraph, if you'll see where his reply is, the third paragraph down, he states, because the mayor committed to waive all permit fees associated with the project, speaking of Mr. King's home, Wanda Bird, in her capacity, shut down the project for weeks. So he not only complains about our mayor, he complains about a city employee and goes as far as her in an email. After speaking with some staff members, I find that Ms. Bird did not shut down the project. He also goes on to say that, basically the city did nothing for that project. The city did do items for that project. So according to the ethics complaint, he not only has, in my opinion, grossly understated and maliciously accused an employee of something that she did not do. And I feel like that there's an ethical problem with statements about our employees. That should be kept in-house. It should not be told to the public. Any questions?
Anyone have a question for this? Roger?
Just, probably just one, and this is perhaps just a function of what, Gmail does. So I don't know, but I have to ask the question anyway.
Okay.
There's a lot, I was trying to follow the email exchange.
Right.
There's a lot of emails I would have liked to have known the fuller context to, but it says quoted text hidden. Just asking a very simple question. Any reason for that, or is just what Gmail does?
No, I would have loved to have had, if it's not on your copy, it might be on the copies that I just did.
I'll tell you exactly why I'm asking. I'm just asking to give you an opportunity to say there's nothing I'm trying to hide, because if Mr. Brown comes up and shows differently, then.
Oh, no, sir, no,
Okay.
sir. If he presents anything, it should be exactly the same thing that I just presented.
Sure.
And my copy that she just gave me has the quote too.
Is that a special copy?
Well, the copy she just gave.
Well, it does have a quote.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it
I'm
doesn't?
saying
Oh, it does. Oh,
it's
okay.
not.
All right.
Mhm.
And, yes, this work, as you do the email back and forth, it does automatically close up the previous quote, the comment.
Does it?
You have to,
Okay.
you have to click on it to actually open it back up, so you can see it.
Fair enough.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Dodgen.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Councilman Brown?
Mr. Brown, please, I get, I got one thing, I just got one thing to say. Before we go any further, the fact that you were sworn in, everybody, understand that. When you're sworn in, you saying, I'm here to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You can't hold back, you can't decide, I'm gonna filter this, I'm gonna filter that. That's what you just did, when you sworn in. Because if you was in a regular court, you'd be held in contempt. So, from this point on, and you can acknowledge, once you're sworn in, and the question's asked, you need to answer that question. Don't try to hold back on it, because it'll get ugly. All right, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Brown?
Good evening. I've listened to all of the complaints that were filed against me, and I actually included it in your packet. I kind of don't know where to start, but I'm going to start. If you kept your packet in the order that I gave it to you, the first thing I'm going to look at is, or actually look at, is the Hampton Veterans Memorial Marker Program, or company or organization. And on the back of that document, I placed several questions in relationship to this organization. And if you look at the bottom of the application form, you'll see 4 sets of names with phone numbers. And my question is, of these names listed on the bottom, how many of those folks are veterans? So I'm here today to show you just how this city treats their veterans. I've served 29.5 years of military service. I fought in 3 conflicts. Some I can't even disclose from places I've been. I've had to determine whether someone goes back to their home or whether to put them down in defense of this country, to give these people the right to do what they're doing right now. These aren't just pretty ribbons on my uniform. I earned every one of these. And the good thing about it, can nobody in here take them from me. I've done what I've done. It keeps me up at night sometimes, but knowing the reason for it enables me to keep on going. I'll be damned if I come back to my city of Hampton, my home, and go down at the hands of these folks that don't even know what it means to be a veteran or a patriot. So, as it applies to this organization, I have some questions that I'd like to know, and I've already posted these to the deputy city manager, or the interim city manager. Does this business have a business license to operate this city? Or are they a nonprofit? If so, what is their nonprofit ID? Are they affiliated with the city? Not of my knowledge, I don't know, and I've been doing a lot of research on it. These crosses that they spoke so highly of, they represent dead people. They sacrificed, they paid the ultimate cost, they're dead. There's nothing we can do about those folks. However, there's a lot that we can do about the veterans that have endured battle, come back home, and live in deplorable, disgusting, deplorable conditions in your little hometown that you care you love. I think it's garbage. I think it's disgusting how these people right down the street from some of these folks who want to be high and mighty in this room today want to tell me that they care about their veterans. I've left in your packet all the TV transcripts from Channel 46, as well as the Henry Arrow and Henry Times. They've done multiple stories on this. They've set up GoFundMe pages. They solicited contribution to this community. On the first day of breaking ground on that project, the mayor stood there in front of us the American Legion of McDonough and Hampton, commissioners, county commissioners, and say that the city will do everything they can do to help this family and this project. I will waive all fees associated with the project. I had every intention of bringing some of those folks with me today, but I left them to bury one of our comrades today, to come here and stand before you, so they can't make it. If you take a moment and peruse through any of those articles, you'll see the condition that these veterans were living in. And like many veterans, they don't know, or they just give up hope, or just stop trying because of the way the system is rigged against veterans. And this man was not even collecting any veterans benefits. Hence, he lived in those deplorable conditions. All he needed was somebody to care. All he needed was someone to care. This city is full of veterans. I would wager anything that if I stood out here, every fourth or fifth car had a veteran tag on it. In this endeavor, which we were hoping was going to take 3 months to do, it took us more than 6 months to redo that house. We had to pretty much rebuild that house, that entire house. The entire plumbing system had to be done all the way down to where it's connecting to the city. The entire electrical system had to be replaced because it was waiting to be, it was a tinderbox. It was ready to go and smoke at any minute. Wires frayed, racks throughout the house. So they can't stand here and tell me that they care about veterans. So let's go forward. I'd like to know how many of these crosses exist. I don't know how much of this, of the proceeds go to veterans in this community. What is the memorandum of understanding between this organization and the city? Or is there none? Did any of these people that are on these crosses, did anybody look and see whether they served with honor, or were they even discharged dishonorably? So I'll take you to the next page. If you look, you see the minutes for the November 13th meeting. And my transcript is in there, what I read out. Anything other than that, then you might need to decide whether or not it's accurate or not. I'd like you to consider what they accused me of saying versus what's written here. As I mentioned previously, I've enclosed my letter of career service, my DD 214. Just in case any of you have any questions as to whether or not I'm going to go to office or not. Now, going to the document referencing that has Robert's Rule of Order. When I came on the city council, we were using a subscript of Robert's Rule as the guidance for the city. It was very difficult, and it didn't incorporate everything that you needed for a municipality to conduct business. Therefore, we adopted the full edition, and we adopted the 11th edition as our rule that we govern our city by. Now, I don't need to tell any grown person to read the information. That should be something that's inherent as a public official. You learn your job, and you do your job as best you can. In Robert's Rule, to Mr. Lowe's point, yes, there's a lot of reference in there about personal privilege. But what you didn't say was that a personal privilege, once acknowledged by the chair, which is the mayor, now I have the floor. And the only one that can stop me from speaking is the mayor or the chair. Therefore, any resident in the audience popping up out of their seat making any noise is disrupting that proceeding. And if the mayor sits there and says nothing, then yes, that proves to his incompetence. So let's take a look at the next one, definition. Question of privilege, a term of parliamentary law and procedure which refers to an urgent motion made at a meeting which seeks an immediate ruling on an alleged violation of the right of, or privilege of a member or as a whole, or in regards to a negative personal remark. It's like the Bible. Every one of us can read the same passage and get a different understanding of what that passage means. So, in order for you to be on the same accord, you need to have some training and some background and some knowledge. We don't do that as a council. So for a second-term mayor and a two-time city councilman, yeah, I expect a whole lot more from the mayor as far as his competence in conducting of our city council government. I expect a lot more. Just because you have 6 people and the mayor sitting up on that podium once a month does not, or sitting in any of those chairs does not take away your First Amendment rights. You have the right to speak your mind. Like a lot of things a lot of us have in common, we all have opinions as well. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all I've heard is opinions. I didn't come here for anybody. I could care less if any of you like me. I came here to do a job as a city councilman. I'm doing it the best of my ability. I'm all about policy and procedures and doing the right thing. I built a career around it. So in here, you see Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3, with some areas highlighted, explaining and showing you just what's going on and the condition of the King's House. On the second page of Exhibit 5, on the back on the bottom, the total amount raised for this project was $1,870 from the public. 20 people submitted a donation to this project. None of those 20 people are from the city of Hampton. So when I say the city of Hampton did nothing for the King's House and the King's Project, I stand by my word. They did absolutely nothing. Exhibit 6 show you the breakdown of that project. We went into it thinking that it was going to be a maximum of about $25,000 to do that house. After 6 months and almost rebuilding the whole house, we spent $57,466.17. None of which are from these people that claim that they're doing a lot for their veterans. While I'm here, let me point out to you the organizations in Hampton that contributed. Deserve all the credit themselves. Nail Heating and Air Conditioning donated a heating and air conditioning system for that house, which had none. The Kings were found in their garage, enclosed garage, with 2 space heaters and a bed and a kitchenette. That's all that was usable in that house. The toilet wouldn't even flush. Ace Pest Control took over a month and a half and they were still pulling rats out of that building. Ditech Roofing put that roof on that house. The roof was shot. Had a tree limb laying across it for months from the previous storm. roofing company down the street donated the roofing materials to repair the house at no cost to the project. The Henry County Tax Commissioner took it upon himself after putting the Kings up in a hotel down here in Hampton to pay for their housing during this time that we were rebuilding their house. Out of my pocket, I spent $3,366.17 for the Kings project. One thing the city doesn't understand, we don't pay city taxes here. And for some reason, they seem to think that because we're sitting up here and they voted for us, that they pay our bills, and we owe them something. I don't owe them anything, nothing at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure those around me that's accusing me of whatever this foolishness is, didn't even vote for me. So as far as I'm concerned, they're not my constituents. My constituents are the ones that voted for me and want some change done in the city. And that's what I'm gonna do, is that's my building. I will run them over and put them in a hole before I give up my cause to do what I vote to do.
So you have
Exhibit 7,
1 minute.
1 minute. Exhibit 7, Preston. Exhibit 10 through 13 through 16, you'll see. Exhibit 10, Walter Watson, the gentleman we buried today, spent 6 months working on the King's House, the general contractor. His application for a permit for the city. If you look at Exhibit 11B, you see it has a notary stamp on there by Julie Cox. Exhibit C, another application. He had to go through several applications before it was approved. Exhibit 12, this is an application by Wayne Hughes. He was the the plumber. Notice the difference between the two applications. What do you see different? Exhibit 13, application for Leon Russell, he's the electrician. If you look at 13B, you'll see the difference between applications. Exhibit 14, Nail Heating and Air Conditioning, their application to do the heat and air conditioning work. Exhibit 10 was the application that we were told, or the Kings were told, that they had to physically come here and apply for a permit to do their house by Ms. Wanda Bird. When he came here and filled it out, then she told them, oh no, each of the contractors had to come and do their own application. So let me spell it out to you. The applications that have a notary stamp on them were put through additional and unnecessary applications do not require a notary stamp in this city. Wanda Bird told us we had to get notary stamp. If you know the application that don't have notary stamp, those gentlemen are white. That project stayed shut down for 3 weeks, going through rigmarole of what was required and what was not required by this city to get a permit. And it's absolutely disgusting and disgraceful, and I was embarrassed being a part of that project and knowing that the city that I represent was so ate up that we didn't know how our own process to get a permit was. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Now, Ms. Brown, at any time, were there any city employees involved in working on that project at any time?
There were 2 instances during that project with the, waterworks. We had, can you hear me? We had to call the, public works out, because the plumbers, the piping in the house was made out of some kind of foreign cardboard, an old process years ago. It collapsed. So the plumbers didn't have the tools to trace it from the toilet all the way outside of the house. So we called the city to identify where the tap was, or call it the crown, where it ties into the sewer line, so we can trace it back to the house and try to figure out where the pipe was buried going into that house. The city couldn't tap. They could not locate it. They ran a dye test and put dye down in the toilet, but it wasn't but 2 houses further downstream where they saw the dye. So we weren't sure where it was. So we had to physically dig it out. We found what we thought was a water line, a sewer line, and we called them back out, hoping that they can use what we thought was a sewer line as a guide to find where the tap was. And because they could not figure it out, they decided they were gonna dig it out and trace the line that we found. That's why they were in there for that instance. There was another sewer line exiting the house on the other side, on the kitchen side of the house, but it was going towards the rear of the house. There's no drain, no sewer line back there. So we called in the public works to trace that line, and they put what they call a jet on that line, so they push high pressure into it and blow whatever is out where it comes out. Sometimes it comes out in the yard, sometimes it goes into the sewer system. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't find it. So those were the 2 times the public works was there for the water. One other time, the trash people came, the people that come and pick up the rubbish from the side of the street. We have a 68-year-old man who by hand cut down the brush in the back and the side of that house. And he piled them up in nice big piles. And we were short on labor. We didn't have the people and the manpower to take those piles and move to the curb. So I requested through the city manager if it would be okay for the public works that comes with a chipping machine to come with a chipping machine, bring the machine where the trash was, and chip the wood up and just dump it back on the ground where it was. And he approved that, and he sent that team out. I directed no one from the city to do anything. I do know what the rules are, and I don't interfere with day-to-day events of the city. That's the city manager's function. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
Ms. Brown, the same question. To the best of your knowledge, were the employees paid by the city?
I assume they were, but they were doing the work day.
During their regular duty day?
Yes, sir.
They're working for the city?
Yeah.
They were directed by the
City manager.
to report to this location?
Yes, sir.
Okay, once they finish that duty, they report it back to their regular duties?
Yes, sir.
Continue their
As far as I
regular-
know.
So there was no person, I'm just looking at this, was anybody called from home who was not working, who was off duty, who was on vacation, who was doing something else, and told to report to this location to conduct work for free?
I have no idea. I wasn't part of that. I just asked, I made a request to Bill.
Okay.
So question answered.
I have a question. Is that a request, or is that, would the waterworks do that for any other citizen in Houston?
The waterworks go around on Mondays and Tuesdays. Monday on the east side of the railroad track here at this side of the city, and pick up all the rubbish on the curb. So residents are able to put their rubbish, their trash, their clippings, their stuff on the curb, and the waterworks come back and pick it up and ship it up.
What you just testified to as to what they did, that was something that other citizens also contributed?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the initial having them go out and check for the, I think you testified to checking where the water was coming from?
To my knowledge, it's the city's responsibility to find or locate the tap, for a house, upon request, if they're doing a new construction, or if they're doing a renovation, or, it's the city, because that belongs to the city, that's in the city, a resident can't touch that. So the only reason that we call them to try to identify the tap is so that we can figure out where the water, the drain lines were, to trace it back and see what kind of conditions those lines were in. And they made the choice to trace it from the house where we found it at the house, and trace it back to see where it tied into the tap.
I have a question, Chairman. Ms. Brown, going back to the, several complaints dealt with decorum and things that were said at the meeting, and, looking at, the statement that you provided us, and I did confirm that your statement was the same as the other, so I was actually reading what you had provided. Understanding that everybody can have their opinion, who they like, don't like, whether they think somebody's competent and incompetent, you know, elections decide all that kind of stuff. But as far as the decorum within the meetings in a public situation, and not impugning in a public way, the city people. There's been some pretty strong language that comes up in the statement, the thing that you read, and even in your passionate remarks to us. So I just want to ask, is there anything about those words, like I'm reading things about the code enforcement sucks, and you said, I don't apologize for it, and that's in your statement.
Yes, sir.
And all these things, is there any of that upon further reflection, or even some of the stuff maybe that you said to us right now, but sort of in the heat of the moment, is there any of that upon further reflection you might say, I wish I hadn't worded it that way, or I'd like to, I wouldn't have said it that way, or I would retract?
You know, sir, I'm gonna answer that as a no, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because everybody isn't a touchy-feely kind of guy. I've asked the questions a number of times in this city hall, among the previous staff members. I've heard it from city employees. That's the way we've always done it. And to me, that's not the right answer. That's the way we've always done it, doesn't mean that you've always done it right. You could have been way off base, and you still screwed up, and you're not willing to change it. That pisses me off. So yeah, I have strong words, and I say it deliberately because I want people to hear me and understand the passion that I do have in my voice about what I'm doing. I care a whole lot about this city. I'm raising my children in this city. I expect a whole lot more from this middle school that's substandard in this city.
Okay, fair enough, you've answered.
Check.
Anything further?
Thank you.
Thank you. Here, I will. Recess after executive session.
Second.